We're going to start out by talking about this fire engine that's being donated by the city of Ashland to a sister city in Mexico.
Yeah. It seems on the surface seems like a very nice thing to do. We're going to give this fire engine to our sister city, and that's going to be a wonderful, great humanitarian thing that we're doing.
Well, down in this little sleepy town, Cortez Echó Pique Todos los Barcos Excepto Uno, that's the short name of the town, I'm sure that they would appreciate such a thing. And it's a good thing that here in Southern Oregon that all Oregonians are living a life of leisure, and there are no budget restrictions of any kind in Ashland, here, or in Medford. A good deal.
Right, we got plenty of money to throw away on giving our used equipment to Mexico. Sure, it's great. We had talked about this before going on the air, and it seems like it would be a good thing to do to have an investigation where we send somebody down there to find out what becomes of this fire truck.
Now, you don't think that the city officials down there might take this thing and say, thank you for the gift. Once it belongs to them, they can sell it if they want to.
Sure. Sure they can, and I am guessing they probably will.
Well, it would be rude for the city officials of Ashland, after giving away something that the citizens bought, and did this without asking the citizens, it'd be rude to go follow up on it and find out if it was used or sold, or the mayor's riding around on an everyday bit. That would be rude.
Yes, it would be.
They don't want to know.
Yes. And you also originated that it's quite likely that we, if I want to say Ashland, they're close enough. We're all in the same boat. That we're paying for it to go down there.
Well, my guess would be that those people in that little town in Mexico are not going to pick up the entire cost. So, keeping in mind that it's Ashland, what's Ashland going to do? Well, they're probably going to task 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 union employees. Nothing wrong with unions. They're wonderful, wonderful. And they're going to take and make it a 5-day weekend.
Yeah. With margaritas.
And drive it on down there and make sure that it's working right, and stick around for another day to meet some officials, shake their hands, and then come on back on the best flight that they can muster from Mexico.
Sure. Yeah. Interesting. And I guess
let's talk less about fire engines than about giving away things that don't belong to you.
Yes.
They use the taxpayer money to buy things, and then somehow these government officials feel that those things belong to them, if not to them personally, to them as a group, because they're not part of the citizenry. They are this elite group that gets to give things away, or of course it's going to make them look good. If you give something to a couple of our local charities, and first of all, our county commissioners don't maintain a list, or they don't say, oh, we're going to give away a vehicle. This happened. It's the only conflict I've ever had with Scott Chansey, who runs the transit department. I love this guy. He's a perfect example of an employee, of a good public servant. He should be a commissioner. But one time when he had a vehicle that had gone beyond its useful life, and he really means it, not like Rob Brandis and Public Works, something goes 100,000 miles and, oh, it's too dangerous to drive. What are you going to do with it? Well, we're going to give it to the public. What? No, we're going to sell it to an unsuspecting public. What? Okay, but what Scott Chansey did was there were a couple of needy organizations in town, and he found one and gave it to them. Now, wait a minute, Scott. There may be more needy organizations, if you're going to do that, than you know of. Oh, yeah. And how about asking all the needy organizations? And by the way, do you have a list of the needy organizations? Well, actually, no. Well, Scott, you can't just pick your favorite one, right?
Yeah, because it's not your vehicle.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
I know that used computers usually go to Access, that group Access. Is there any other group? And maybe there isn't. But is there any other group that might be able to use used computers? And, if so, then shouldn't there be a list? And at the very least, you would do it one time to this and one time to that if there were only two. Or you might say, well, what do you intend to use it for? Good luck in getting the commissioners to do that, because people come in for free gifts, $5,000. Here, give it to us. It's not a loan. We're just going to hand it to you. And then they don't know whatever happens to it. What do you mean they don't know whatever happens to it? They don't know. And they don't ask.
Yeah. Well, I guess it doesn't matter to them, and they probably replace computers on a schedule. It has nothing to do with whether or not the computer functions. It has to do with, well, it's been 3 or 4 years or whatever, so now it's time to replace the computer. Well, I still have a computer here that works that I bought like almost 10 years ago, which is odd, but it keeps firing up whenever I push the button, so hey, I'm not going to argue with it.
Let me ask you a question of our viewers. What version, if you're using Microsoft Word, this is the best one of all,
Yes.
What version of Microsoft Word are you using?
Oh,
I'm using Word 2003. It works great. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but
there is.
Your Word 2003 doesn't back up onto the cloud, and it doesn't share with the Albanian version of the Internet. I don't care.
So what? Yes, it doesn't matter. Yeah, yeah, I don't care. I have, I've got a couple of backup hard drives I plug in there. I dump all that. I mean, I don't have to be in the cloud or any of that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter to me. I'm fine driving an old pickup truck if I have to. But I mean, we all get used to behaving in a certain way, and when you work for the government, you have a distorted sense of what normalcy is. You buy a new car every couple of years because you can afford to do that. You're getting paid plenty of money. You're getting plenty on vacation. You're getting, and listen, I can hear you guys now. Oh, I don't make that much money. Well, there are plenty of
when they talk using that squeaky little voice too.
Yes. And listen, not everybody working in government is making a crap load of money, but a lot of them are. And it's especially the difference between government employees and non-government employees in a town like this is big.
Well, you guys are so critical. You're so critical of the government. Why, the government does all these good things for us. Look, this stuff doesn't belong to them.
Right.
They are our public servants. And you buy things for them. They don't even ask you. They just buy them, and then they give them away. Really? What? Why would you force us to give you money? Because we're forced to do it. Or they'll take your property away. And they force you to give them money to spend the way that they want to, and then they have no consideration of the fact that this isn't their stuff.
Yeah, and it seems odd to me that I'm sure that when they go to replace things, the criteria for doing that has nothing to do with whether or not it's serving the function that it was intended to serve, and I don't see that there was any problem with the cameras and things in the ambassador, but they're going to replace all that stuff anyway.
There were absolutely no problems with those cameras, and we know from experience. See, one of the cameras went down. And they said, well, see, there's going to be a problem if we take an old-fashioned camera, not high definition. You have a high definition TV on your wall? Maybe you do. A lot of people don't. And they said, well, we would have a problem finding a camera that would match. You're not going to have any problem finding a camera that will match. You can't joke with us. We know this.
Yeah.
And so that's just a lot of bull. Well, we're going to have to replace all of the cameras and the switcher, the thing that switches between cameras, except that switcher works with both kinds of cameras. So absolutely you don't have to change that. You don't have to change the software. You don't have to change the contract. This is something we know about. And so you're not going to be able to fool us. So we mentioned it at the meeting. This is something, oh, well, you should know better. You know we need. No, we know better than that. And you know that we know. And so to try to belittle us, well, Mr. Matthews, you should know about such things. Yes, we do. And
well,
go ahead.
It's easy or easier, you know. I mean, if you're in a department and you're tasked with, you know, taking care of, you know, the cameras, the streaming, and all that stuff, of course you want the latest Fandango stuff. And you know, if you're dealing with somebody else's money, why not get it?
But wouldn't it be great if they were using the equipment the right way to begin with? Yeah, I told you about this high-definition TV set that's up on the wall that all it's supposed to do is tell you the time. I mean, this is ridiculous. Or how about, you know, we recently had to put up our videotape of the county commissioners meeting is now the official video. Well, it's our official video because theirs never played. Now, wait a minute. If you're spending all this money, most of this stuff is operator error.
Yes.
And so if you don't press record, or you're not doing these, you know, we had backups to backups, and we were doing it for free. Yes, the people at BadCounty.com were running the televising of the weekly business session. We were doing it for free, and we, God bless, we never, ever made a mistake. It was always playing 100% correctly every time. Well, you can't do better than that, but I wouldn't try to match that. Even I wouldn't try to match our own record for that every time. And they decided they'd rather pay for it than let us do it for free. And here's the crazy part. Where was I when the directing was taking place? You know?
Yes,
I was in the room.
Listen, this is the biggest screw-up that they ever did was take you out of operating the video system for them, because now you're out in front of them, hassling them, giving them a bad time all the time. And they could have kept you back there in a little cubby hole, but no.
I was doing it for free. I was doing it as a public service to everybody. I was coming in at midnight every night to do a switchover because we didn't have the right equipment. Well, do you want to spend a lot of money on this other kind of... No, we can do it this way. And all I need to do is sacrifice each midnight. Well, of course I'm going to do that. What? You know, no, we need $10,000. No, we don't need that. Yes, it's a hassle. But we need more public servants. Oh, why don't you volunteer, right, Mr. Matthew? I did volunteer. And you threw it all away to spend tens of thousands of dollars on stuff that's not happening correctly. What?
Now we've all had a little view into the life of uber geekiness, and that's what uber geeks will do. Because they appreciate what's happening here, will go in and do that kind of stuff for free.
Well,
they just hired the wrong people.
They decided that their own IT department could do it. They're internet guys, but their internet guys don't know anything about television, and that's why all the pictures look like the people look like this on the screen with all this extra headroom on top of them. I looks like Mike Jones on television because I'm way down here. I say, Mike, sit up. So
now, just to give the audience a little bit of background on that, I'm constantly getting it from Dale because I have too much or not enough headroom. You know?
Right. That's right. It either has not enough chin room or not enough headroom. Look, another thing about uber geekiness. Okay, so many of you don't care. Yahoo! So turn off this show right now. Okay, I do care about transparency in public officials. And the number one thing I care about that is when they take the oath of office. Remember Simon here recently took the oath of office again? And by the way, the other two commissioners said, should we retake the oath of office? Nah. Everyone knows that we're honest all the time. In fact, we're good for our word when we say that we're going to obey the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state of Oregon and all the general rules. So one of the laws says that when you have a meeting, you're supposed to tell people about it ahead of time. What a shock. And you're supposed to give them an idea of what you're going to talk about because you work for the people. You're not their leader. As Rika Brown says, how did she put that? Honorable chosen ones. What?
Yes.
What country are you from?
Yeah,
Honorable
right.
chosen
Exactly.
ones.
Yeah, she's just she was born in the wrong era in the wrong part of the world.
Yeah. And so I think that they should be public servants. Now, like Sandy Casanelli or not, she was always a public servant. We'll talk about that. There was one time where a lady came up to her, and she had just walked out of the ambassador, Sandy had, and this lady walked up, and she says, oh, those are really nice sandals. And this lady obviously had nothing. I mean, I think she was pushing a cart or something like that. Sandy took off her sandals. Nobody was watching except for me. Nobody knew that she did this except for me. And she's like, Dale, don't tell that story. She gave her sandals to the lady. Public servant.
Yeah.
When they first started, when she was just brand new, and they were in the little back room talking about some need for repainting up in the courtrooms. And Sandy said, you know, I have a whole bunch of paint at home. I think this same color. And I could get some paintbrushes, and we could make a fun weekend out of it. We'd all get to know each other. I'd like to know more of you. And I'll order up some pizza. I mean, this was all on her. And she said, we could get together, and we could have a fun time, you know, painting that place. Or, you know, if we need different color, I'll spring for it. And Dave Toller said, I'm a highly paid official. I'm not going to be up there painting the walls. And everyone else looked at her like she was the skunk at the dinner party.
Yeah. Well, you know, yeah, that's the difference right there in a nutshell.
I would just like them to obey the law. Okay, so they're not going to volunteer because they're highly paid officials. I would just like them to obey the law. So today, they had a general discussion. It was the first general discussion of the new year. And afterwards, I went to go see Wally Hicks, and I said, Wally, today was the first general discussion since you've been the county legal counsel. Okay. And I said, they are supposed to put down what topics they're going to talk about, like they do for the weekly business session. If you want an idea of the fact that they're going to be talking about putting street signs on your road, or spending your money, or doing some other, they're sending Simon here off to Washington, D.C. again to do something, and it's all so paid off so well. And you want to be there to comment or to listen. Most people don't comment, they just listen. So when they sit in the little back room, and they've got a list in front of them, here's what we're going to talk about. And it says at the top of the list, agenda. Okay, that makes sense. Except they're required to share that agenda with you. It's state law. It's very clear. And Wally said, it is very clear. When you have an agenda, you must tell people what you're going to be talking about. You're required to do that. Well, they don't. And since Simon Harris, they used to do it all the time. Since Simon Harris has been in office, all this time, when he came in, just a coincidence, they stopped telling people what they were going to talk about. Really? Now, what's the purpose of that? Well, as Simon Harris says, we are the most transparent government probably in all the world. And he's talking about our county government.
Yeah. And I always tell you this, whenever somebody says that, hair on the back of my neck stands up. You know, if we're the most transparent, we're the most ethical, we're the...
You find Simon Harris on the back of your neck? Is that what you're saying? Is he standing on the hair? Here, sorry.
Yes, something
Sorry.
like that. Anyway, that always bugs me whenever somebody makes that claim. You better start watching them very closely.
Something's happening here. Maybe some sharp-eyed people are noticing. Occasionally, when we switch from me to you, you to me, my picture reverses, and it says Yadsuit instead of Tuesday. So just, we'll take a look at the replay.
I'm not seeing that, just so you know.
Okay, well, happy Yadsuit, everybody. Because it's the opposite of Tuesday, sorry for those. We're supposed to be at a higher plane of talking here in these and not explaining everything to people. This show is for people who have good basic knowledge of what's happening. They just don't care about open public meeting laws. And as Simon Harris pointed out, we're gnats in the room that care about obeying the law, the open public meeting laws. They took an oath of office. They said they would obey these laws. It's clearly breaking the law. And why do we want them to tell us what they're going to talk about? Partly because it's part of the law, and partly because I don't want them in the little back room talking about things without telling you about it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to hear what they have to say. But you might care if they're going to change the fire laws in your community. You might care that they're going to put up bus benches like they did in the city. Remember those? $100,000. You might care that they're going to have new fare machine. What do they call them? Where you drop in your money for the little bus fare machines.
Mm.
Over in Medford, those cost. Are you ready for this? $60,000 a piece. $60,000 for. They better be made out of gold. They better make change for you. They better communicate with headquarters via Wi-Fi so that they'll know exactly how much money they're making on an instant basis. And none of those things. They take your money. Well, yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
Do you want to know
this
about
is
that?
this is kind of how government is.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, right, and we should know. And just a little aside, on the bus shelters.
Yeah.
I worked for a company, an advertising company that we had contracts with transit districts, and we would install those bus shelters. Okay, and we would, but for free, for the purpose of hanging our advertisements in them. So that was, and then not only did we pay for that, to place that there for them, but then we also paid them on a regular basis a royalty for using that site to put advertising for movies or cigarettes or alcohol or whatever at that time. Okay, can't do that anymore. But the bottom line is I know how much those bus shelters cost, and those bus shelters were a lot nicer than the ones that they put in here, and they weren't anywhere near $100,000 a piece. They weren't even $20,000 a piece.
But
so,
if you don't know they're talking about this, then there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. So and that's why open public meeting law and transparency matters. Right?
Right.